Welcome to Gay Milwaukee, and today we have a special guest, one of the Space Cats and volunteers for Pride Fest, Olivia!
Hello.
This is so much fun. You're a supporter of the LGBT community, aren't you?
Yes, I am totally an ally. It's very important to me considering that I grew up with two moms.
I really wanted to have you on this episode because my husband and I, we are still trying to adopt, and I wanted to know the things the kids would go through, because this is the things that keep me up at night. Like, what would they say? What should I be prepared for? Because, you know, you can do your best, but at the same time, there's still gonna be things you would not even know to think about that would come your way.
All right, so.
What's your experience?
When, growing up, kids would always ask me why I had two moms. Like, if they had never met gay people before, or if they had straight parents. Like, really. Because, in kindergarten, you're gonna meet people, or at least I've met people who had never met gay people before. And then they'll be like, oh, who's your dad? You have two moms? Okay, maybe my parents are divorced, and now I have two moms, but where's your dad? And that was when I'd be like, well, I don't know my dad. I had a sperm donor for a father, but I have two moms. And that usually led to which mom is like the dad.
And you had to explain all this in kindergarten.
Yeah. So, honestly, I didn't, since, I don't know, when I was that young, I would think of who I thought would be more, masculine. And I would always say, this mom is, more like the dad, and this one's more like the mom. But it really was, the one mom was the one who was always at work. Or when they came home, I didn't get to, see them as much. So I just assumed, based off of, what I already knew, that, dads worked and moms stayed at home with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
That was just, going into kindergarten, that was, what I thought.
So I think, especially from somebody who wants to adopt, I think it's super important to kind of remove the stigmas of having two dads or two moms as something less than a mom and a dad, because there's so many single parents out there, and there are a lot of single parents out there just really doing the job right too. So
for me growing up, it was always meeting other kids with gay parents was a different experience, definitely.
You met other kids with gay parents as well. See, that's so funny, because I feel like you guys are unicorns, and we rarely see you guys.
Yeah, there are two other kids at my school in my grade, actually, who had gay moms. And one of them I was super good friends with, and our parents ended up becoming friends. And it's kind of it was weird, because I definitely felt a connection to her, because it was both her moms are gay. And then she was adopted while I had my sperm donor for a dad.
And you both were girls too.
Yeah.
A lot of parallels.
So it's weird though how even though that was part of our lives and something that we had similar in between us, we didn't really that didn't come up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was just we would both be oh, our moms, and it was an understanding. Whereas with talking to kids with straight parents, or even talking to just other people in general, when I say my mom or my moms, there's always a slight disconnect, I think. Or not always, even. Sometimes there can be a tendency to question it.
Yeah.
Two moms. Or
I can see that.
Because there's so many different ways someone can have two moms. There's so many different ways someone can have multiple parents in their lives that may not be their biological parents.
I wanted to ask, as someone what would you tell someone that's looking forward, that's in a same-sex couple that wants to have kids? Just things that keep in mind going forward, because there's not a rule book on being a parent in general, let alone being a queer parent.
Yeah. Introduce them to different circles.
Yeah.
Because I know that with my parents' generation of lesbians, there's always a type that starts to stand out. And if I was not involved with so many other different families from different places and different backgrounds, I may not know that lesbians aren't just lesbians because they've had so many bad experiences with men. For people who question it, for the ones who don't know and don't like understand like why you would have two dads or two moms, I think it's really important to explain it. Like, I think it is
just take it head on?
Yeah, I think it's important to just go for it, because if you're going to be a person in that person's life who introduces them to that lifestyle, like, if you speak about it like it's normal, they will see that it is normal, I think.
Oh, it's so interesting you say that, because as a person in general, I'm more of a protective type of person. I don't know if, and I guess right away, I'm not sure that would be my first approach, but I'm glad you said that, because that I could see that making a difference, you know?
Because I think, that's at least how I've always tried to address it. And I think it also comes with a bit of defensiveness behind it.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely that, like, fear that they're going to be like, oh, like, that's weird or something. Right. But then here I am to be like, no, it's not weird. Like, it's normal. Like, it can happen. Like, it's perfectly fine, and I'm okay. So, like, back off.
I have to ask, does it still, even at your age now, does it still sometimes come up every now and then?
Actually, like, usually, if people are talking about their parents, like, I find myself always talking about my moms, because, like, I love my mom so much. I always talk about them.
Mother's Day must be a hoop for you, hey?
And I think it comes up because I like to clarify things, and then I'll be like, oh, my mom. Then I'll be like, wait, this mom. Well, they also got divorced, so that's something. Like, even gay people get divorced.
Yeah.
And, like, that was so hard. Oh, that's another thing. Well, now that it's possible for gay people to get married legally, they can get divorced legally. So, like, having kids with gay parents when it wasn't legal means that if you adopt or if you have a biological parent in the relationship, all the legal rights, like, they change. So my non-biological mom, when my parents got divorced, like, had no rights.
And I feel like divorce, because my parents are not together either, and I feel like that brings out a lot of things in general, and I don't care if you're gay, straight, whatever, that's always a complicated subject, let alone putting the idea of the children rights, because you're in a same-sex relationship before it was less of what it is today.
Yeah, I don't think they never thought about divorcing either. Like, that never became, like, that never was, like, there's like the prenup or whatever that you can get, like, but they don't have a prenup they didn't have a prenup for gay people.
Well, I think a lot of the times from what I heard, especially being a same-sex married couple, why do you need to get married?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the same reason everybody else does, you know? It's, I think there's a lot of people that think marriage is reserved for straights or Christians. And it's like, you know, I didn't think you had a monopoly on it, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a lot that comes with marriage. I think when you're married, there's so much that changes due to, you know, your money and your, you know, like you said, if you have kids, there's just so many different things that, you know, get intertwined that you normally wouldn't if you're dating somebody.
Yeah.
And
I would also say, like, be careful. Like, I mean, I don't think that, like, you necessarily would, like, divorce or whatever, but when, you know, like, your kids, they will feel, you know, things from your guys' like, relationship. Like, everyone absorbs information. And then my parents, when they divorced, like, it wasn't as, like, 50-50. Like, I couldn't, like, visit her 50 and her 50. It was whatever I wanted to do.
That's important, though, because I had the same experience, and, you know, my parents are like, well, you know, whatever he wants to do, like, let him go, you know, where he, you know, they didn't want it to be messy on my end, you know, and I think that's a good thing, because we've seen sometimes it can get very messy.
Yeah.
And I think on top of the fact that, you know, having two moms, there are invisible things you go through on top of that, just because, you know, normal man and woman parents, you know, and families, that's the common, you know, that's normal, for lack of better words, whereas there are things that come along with that most people have not even discussed or had the conversation on top of that.
I took advantage of the fact that I could choose, which was really nice.
Yeah.
It was nice that I could choose, because even though now I see why my one mom was reacting the way she was reacting.
Oh, yeah.
Then it was too much. Like, I couldn't handle the pressure. I would be very interested to meet a kid who grew up with gay parents who ended up being gay as well. Or
now that you mention, I don't think I know a few kids that have same-sex parents, but at the same time, I don't think the ones that I do know grew up gay.
Which is, I don't know, it's really interesting because it's weird to think about.
Because that's what everyone says is going to happen, you know?
And you know, who knows? Like, maybe later in life I will be gay.
Because sexuality can change, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Do you think it'd be hard for you to have straight kids or gay kids? Like, do you think it'd be a challenge either way?
I think,
other than like being a parent being a challenge.
On my end, I would, and this is just me, I would want to have a daughter because I think one of the fears of having a son was there's so many stigmas from my growing up as, oh, gay men touch little boys and stuff, and I'm not even trying to like even humor the idea of that type of like people looking at me and my kid that way.
Yeah.
So I would immediately rule out having a son just on that, because that just...
You wouldn't want that.
I could not deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, and a lot of people said that when I was younger, and I used to, as a kid, I would believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not to mention, I need to have a little girl. I need to dress her up. But I think that's a fear of mine. Mm-hmm. As somebody who wants to have kids, that's something that really, there's people in my family who had that idea, and I think they would say that about other people that were gay. And obviously, I would never be a child molester, but at the same time, I think I would be very scared to have my hypothetical son around a family member and they say something like that. I think that would really hurt me mentally, and I couldn't even wrap my mind around how that would affect my kid and my husband. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if that's ever, you have two moms and you're a girl too.
You know, I don't think there's a stigma like that for gay women kids.
I know it's a weird insecurity sometimes, and but I think that's just the background. And like I said, I need to have a little girl in my life. I can just see all the dresses and everything. It'd be great. Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think my parents actually were more scared for me to be around old men or like older men. Like that was the weird thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I couldn't sleep over at girls' houses who had dads.
Oh, I can see that. Okay. Yeah. It always comes, I think, like, a lot of our society places men with that kind of energy. I think there's even still women that do that to other women, you know? But I think that's less talked about because people view that as less of a threat, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think for gay moms, at least, or, like, any same-sex couple, like, don't instill fear in your kids of straight people, of like
the masculine energy of your feminine and vice versa. Okay,
like don't because that just causes them to not understand. Like,
it complicates it.
Yeah, it does, because it's like, why would I be afraid of that if that's because like I'm straight, so like why should I fear men type thing. But at the same time, there's always that importance of being aware of your surroundings, being smart. And they didn't necessarily instill that in me either. So it was like a little different.
All right, Olivia, we have to wrap this up. Time for the question bowl.
All right, I'm gonna close away. Okay. Oh, okay, it says, what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self? Okay, one piece of advice I would give my younger self is to not give my time to people who don't deserve it. You know, like that's totally, because even though I don't have regrets, I definitely did waste my time a lot.
A lot of people don't realize they're wasting their time too, and it becomes so circular. And people, the how do I put it? Well, the most powerful drug, I believe, is another human being. Mm-hmm. and people will just sit there and take, drain, and not even give it a second thought.
Yeah. And that definitely, it made me who I am now, but it was a lot more painful than it had to be being in that situation.
I'm glad you figured that out at the age you did, because there's people well past you that still cannot comprehend that.
Yeah, I definitely know what to look out for now. I have all my red flags. I know where they are.
Advice anybody can follow. Olivia, you need to come back. We need to talk about more stuff, because I feel like we are scratching the surface, it seems like.
I would love to come back and chat more.
And on that note, if you have a story to tell, come chat with us. We're here at Gay Milwaukee. We're signing out. Stay gay.